Thank you.
I damaged my hair, so it won't go back like that.
You just gotta grow it out or cut it off and start over.
This is gonna be my first time.
Grow it out
It is what it is.
and do some protein treatments and hot oil treatments.
Okay, so
Now, since y'all so close, be careful what you say. It's gonna pick it up.
When me, Brianna, and baby girl go up there, do we just still introduce ourselves individual, right?
say it again.
We go all three go up, right? And it's gonna be Constance. I introduce myself and go on and then you introduce yourself, right? Okay. So what do you do? Oh, Brianna doing theory.
I am too. We both are.
Do I say theory? It makes sense. I just okay, just go.
That's the one right there. You know what I'm saying? So let's just go ahead and knock it out.
I bet y'all ain't more ready than I am.
I don't know what I mean. But you do got some backhand stuff, so you probably right.
Tell me all your bad stuff, and I'm gonna tell you all about it.
You right, yeah, you right. You might got me beat. You might got me beat.
I'm just saying, I'm willing to do it. Check it out there. The brother been going through. Oh, Lord have mercy. This
Well,
has
you
been
carry
a
it
semester
well.
and
You
year.
do carry it well, Dr. Harry. You carry it well.
Well, I appreciate it. It don't feel like that on the inside. So we're gonna get started in about 3 minutes. Just trying to be on schedule.
No, he was anxious.
Y'all want to present it. Hey, in fact, part of our overview is we're going to say we didn't have anything to do with this.
Wow.
Now, if y'all kill it, we're like, yeah, we did that. We did that. I'm gonna break my neck with it.
Oh, yeah, gone. On the floor.
I ain't playing nothing smooth. I'm not playing nothing smooth.
You might as well stand up.
Just look back there.
I can't be sitting again.
Stand up and just look. Oh, there. That's how we. There.
Yes, sir. Got my little point too.
Yeah, all that.
Right, it was easy. Everybody can do it. All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you all for your patience. Trying to just try to stick to the schedule. We're going to get started right here at 2:30. First, let me say welcome to those who may be new to the campus. We welcome you to our campus for the first time. For those who've been here before, we welcome you back. And to everyone in attendance, we thank you for attending this event, supporting the work of our students here. My name is Dr. Melvin Herring. I am the director of the Master of Social Work program here at Johnson C. Smith. On behalf of our president, Dr. Valerie Kinlock, the dean of our college, Dr. Alfonso Agui, and to our department chair, who's I would like to recognize, Dr. Kareem McGrady. We bid you all greetings and welcome to this event. This is a very important event for our program. For those that don't know, this is the culminating activity or event for the program as the students have matriculated through. Some did, advanced standing students did 1 year. We have some students that's been in the program for 2 years. And all of that hard work culminates to this event. And so you are sharing something really special with us today, and we appreciate you for being here. If there are any family and friends who are watching or who are in the audience, this work, this product is as much of you as it is these students, because they wouldn't have been able to do it without you. So we definitely want to thank you for all of the support. Dr. Luciano is going to come up and just kind of give you an overview of what the Applied Research Project is. But what I will say to you this year, we are doing, we're reverting back to what we did in the earlier days with a formal presentation. So the students will give you a formal presentation today here in the auditorium. And then they will have a poster presentation out in the atrium. We will have opportunity for Q&A after each presentation today, but the poster presentation allows for a little bit more intimate Q&A if you should you choose to. Also, I hope that you'll stay and enjoy some of the refreshments that we have out in the atrium for you. So again, we really appreciate you for being a part of this, and Dr. Luciano will give you an overview now.
Okay, so this is the moment of truth, okay? The Applied Research Project here involves a full year study. In other words, you begin in the first semester, the IRB approval, the second semester, which is the spring, you go into the data analysis, and you go into some of the mechanics of building out the study, and eventually this can turn into a manuscript or a peer-reviewed publication as it has been done in the past. That is the structure of the course. With that being said, this is kind of like a capstone, a mini dissertation, or a master's thesis where all of you get the right to graduate. Okay, you all prove yourselves that you're worthy enough to be scholars, to know your research area, and this is an ability for you to demonstrate that. So there's been a lot involved in this, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I see some of my former students back there. They remember, they went through this too. I see some of my second year students back there. Important. See what you see, observe this, because this is going to be on you when it's your turn. Okay. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the study. It has been shown, studies have shown that 1 out of 4 HBCU students suffer from mental health issues. Whether it is stress, whether it is trauma, whether it is challenges, academic barriers, financial barriers, we will all suffer from that at some point or another. Now, also, in comparison to other schools, HBCUs don't often have the primary mental health resources to help these students. The reason why we chose this topic is because we wanted to explore that dynamic, right? We wanted to see what are some of the protective factors that shield students from being in an HBCU, and what are some of the negative barriers or challenges that affect the academic experience of an HBCU student. knowing HBCUs, teaching in an HBCU, we found the study to be highly important and relevant because it hits home. It hits all of us. And I want you to know that my students work very hard. I work very hard. We all work very hard. So this is a way of celebrating that. As you present, be calm, because remember, this is a piece of art. This is art. Art is research, and research is art. Okay? So with that being said, my students are going to show you what these HBCU students, what this demographic, the graduates, the students, former students, current students, HBCU alumni, what their perspective is and what their HBCU experience was. Okay? And they also provided some recommendations at the end to kind of help promote the brand, to kind of lead people to understand that identifying with the brand, with the HBCU brand, is protective. If you love your HBCU, you connect with professors, and you have those positive experiences on a college campus in higher education, you are more likely to be protected from stress, trauma, depressive symptomatology. Okay? You guys ready? Yeah. All right, take it away.
All right, everybody. Hi, my name is Takaya. I will be doing our introduction. So, our study focused on the experience of African American students at HBCUs, highlighting the importance of these institutions for academic achievement and cultural affirmation. Using qualitative interviews, our research examines mental health issues among HBCU students, alumni given the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic and racial revenue. Depression, anxiety, and stress are common concerns among Black students at HBCUs. Our study aims to identify these themes that can make future efforts towards the mental health needs of African Americans in higher education. Next will be the history.
Hello everyone, my name is Mia Roddy, and I'll be discussing the history of HBCUs. Historically Black colleges and universities played an imperative role in providing education to African Americans who were denied access from traditional institutions due to segregation. These institutions became centers of academic excellence, cultural pride, and social activism, producing influential leaders and scholars. Despite facing challenges like limited funding and racial inequality during the Jim Crow era, HBCUs preserved, fostering resilience and unity among students, faculty, and staff. Today, HBCUs continue to adapt to challenging social and educational landscapes, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. They uphold a legacy of academic excellence, cultural heritage, and social justice, inspiring future generations to contribute to a more equitable and inclusive society. Next, we'll have the literature review.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Constance McKinley. I'll be doing the literature review. The literature review is research on what the researchers have found as far with the study of HBCU youth, students, and mental health. The top 5 sources that contribute to stress among HBCU students are: 1, decision about education; 2, peers respecting what was being conveyed; 3, too many things to do at once; 4, having too many responsibilities; and the last one was financial problems. Also, HBCU has a factor in nurturing environment which can insulate and protect our students and protect HBCU students from real racial harms, removing the need for grit and resilience. Our work shows that Black HBCU graduates are more likely to feel prepared for life outside of college than Black non-HBCU students. Overall, Black students fare much better at HBCUs academically, socially, and emotionally. But further research is needed to understand how social and academic environmental protects HBCU students' mental health. Stress is another factor. College students, we know, are already vulnerable group of people experiencing stress related to various outcomes such as health, academic performance while they're in school. Our studies show the top 5 stressors with our research that we did with 139 participants were 1, death of a family member, 2, low grades, 3, time management, 4, relationship problems, and 5, missed classes. In addition, there was a significant correlation between self-esteem, social support, and stress for all students, except African Americans and PWIs. Like I said, we know that college is a transitional period when young people undergo new experience, meeting new people, and facing opportunities that could potentially cause stress in their lives. A group of researchers agree that college students face a variety of adverse health outcomes, including smoking, drinking, experimenting with illegal drugs, suicide ideation, and other unhealthy lifestyle such as poor diet and lack of sleep. This increase is exposed to perceived stress levels that leads to an extension of therapeutic culture in the general public and on college and university campus nationwide. The next one is pride and legacy. HBCUs are known for progression, resilience, and uplifting people, especially Black individuals. HBCUs are extraordinary and exceptional in many ways. Research shows that African American students going to HBCUs are united in campus life, enjoyment of having closer relationships with faculty members, and engaging in campus organizations and activities at great lengths. This is shown by paraphernalia worn, pride, and the legacy of family members. Our study showed that pride and positive experience with professors at HBCUs also were other protective factors that shield students from higher depression and stress.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tashara Williams, and I'll be going over our theoretical framework. And the first theory that we decided to go with is psychodynamic theory. And psychodynamic theory focuses on psychological drives and forces within individuals that explain human behavior personally. We chose psychodynamic theory to allow students to better reflect on individualized lived HBCU experiences. Psychodynamic theory provides a lens through which to understand the mental health experiences of historically Black colleges and university students, considering the interplay of cultural, familial, interpersonal dynamics. For HBCU students, their cultural heritage, mental health, and familial dynamics shape their psychological well-being. Psychodynamic theory is tailored to HBCU students that might explore how these factors manifest in patterns of behavior, relationships, and coping strategies. By addressing the unique intersections of race, culture, mental health, and identity within a psychodynamic framework, mental health professionals can offer culturally sensitive support to HBCU students navigating the complexities of their mental health journeys.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna White. I'm going with the second theory, which is social capital theory. Social capital theory was originated by James Coleman in 1988. It is a multi-dimensional concept that connects and relates properties of social systems and the network of relations. Basically meaning the relationships between students or individuals. The framework focuses on fundamentalist views of social actions which conditions us by social structures of human relationships. The reason we chose this theory is because to connect and demonstrate that this is an ideal theory to help HBCU students and graduates have a better career and career pathway. Sorry about that. While conducting this research, we have noticed HBCU graduates and students have a better safety net with social capital. The significance of this research with HBCU students is to give graduate students, alumni, and to establish trust as well as a sense of belonging with a positive relationship and social connection. The brand, HBCU brands, is significant to the component of addressing norms, values, as well as social groups. We came up with 4 hypotheses. Hypothesis 1 being graduates and students are more likely to have higher pride regarding their education. Hypothesis 2, HBCU graduates and students are more likely to be resourceful as well as accountable for their mental health. Hypothesis 3, HBCU students, graduates, and alumni are more likely to represent their school brand as well as serve as a role model for future generations that will attend HBCUs. Hypothesis 4, HBCU graduates and alumni who are part of academic fraternities and students clubs are more likely to overcome academic as well as social barriers within their later careers.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Tanaja Williams, and I'll be talking about the null and alternative hypothesis. The HO, meaning null hypothesis, shows that there was no difference rejected in our study. The HA, meaning alternative hypothesis, shows that mental health, stress, and traumatic events were a major phenomenon and played a significant role in the experience of HBCU graduates, students, and alumni. On top of that, we've been talking about the brand and the pride of an HBCU student, and identifying with the HBCU brand promotes feelings of safety, protection, and validation among HBCU students, graduates, and alumni.
And with our study, we decided to go with 5 research questions. And the first one is, at what age did you perceive your mental health as being an issue while being enrolled at your respective HBCU? 2, did your college level of classification play a role in your mental health or the challenges that you may have experienced? 3, what are some of the systemic and racial barriers that HBCU students face upon entering their field or professional practice? 4, is there a relationship between being enrolled at an HBCU and your state of mental health? And 5, what were some of the motivational factors that lead HBCU students, graduates, and alumni to pursue their higher educational goals?
Now we will go over the data management overview. A significant amount of information was appropriately analyzed and stored on Qualtrics for data analysis. Consensually, participants completed surveys that provided us with data to support the study. Research questions and the testable hypotheses were developed using codes and themes. In total, we had 139 surveys were collected, and we had 11 individuals interviewed done by all of us in the study.
Hello everyone, my name is Keishana Gary, and I'll take time to break down the data management process. So first we have data collection. We work really closely with data collection. The data management process is important in research. It allowed our research team to analyze information, improve data quality, share information among the team, keep data up to date, and allow for organization to effectively scale data. So for the first, I have it broken down into 7 different categories for the data management process. We have data collection, organization, storage, confidentiality, analysis, documentation, and regular review. For data collection, we work really closely with the data collection team. This was the first step of the research. The data collection team took time to collect data through interviews, surveys, assessments, and observation. And then the data management team took the information that they found and carefully and accurately recorded that information. Next, we have organization. This step consisted of organizing data based on information such as demographic information, mental health issues that came up, experiences that the students had experienced, and then academic challenges and success and coping skills. This information was stored into groups for clarity and relevance. For the storage, the data was collected and secured using a password-protected flash drive. This prevented unauthorized access and loss of data. This leads me right into confidentiality. We ensured that the data was restricted to authorized personnel only. Surveys remained anonymous. Interview names remained anonymous unless they gave us permission to reveal their names. For the analysis portion, this step allowed us to examine data and identify patterns, trends, and insight. This also allowed for the team to identify codes, subcodes, and themes as it related to our hypothesis. For the documentation, this was very important. It was very important for us to make detailed documentation, especially considering that we conducted this research throughout the course of the fall and spring semester. So detailed documentation over the course allowed us to reflect on data that was collected, storage protocol, modification, assigned groups, and more. This also ensured transparency and accountability. And then lastly, I have regular review. This process allowed for continuous review to pinpoint potential issues, pros and cons, areas of improvement, and what was successful. The overall data management process created structure throughout our research. Next, we have data collection. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tori Pritchett, and we are part of the data collection team. So we started our data collection off first by getting approved in mid-October from the IRB, and then we started with qualitative data, and that refers to data that cannot be measured or counted objectively. It describes subjective and interpretive qualities of an item or a process, and for that we collected interview transcripts and that had open-ended responses on them. We also did quantitative data. It involved gathering and measuring relevant information on specific variables within a given system. This process enabled us to answer important questions and also evaluate the outcomes of a particular system. This particular method included survey responses, which included demographic information and measuring instruments.
Okay, so for data collection SPSS, SPSS stands for Statistical Package for Social Sciences and is a software used for organizing and analyzing data. This software allows us as researchers, analysts, and etc. to generate reports, conduct various statistical tests, and procedures. And then there's the operations as well. So it creates manual code books, manually cleans data, recodes variables, runs descriptive statistics, reports frequencies, formulates statistical significant findings, and reports validates or disproves your hypothesis. So for data collection, Qualtrics is a web-based survey platform that provides tools for creating, distributing, and analyzing surveys. It's commonly used in academic institutions and research organizations to gather data.
All right, so for our sample, The population consisted of 139 respondents who attended historically Black college universities, including alumni, graduate students, or current students. The research that we collected, it was via text, email, and we also attended an open house event. And at that event, there were future students for Johnson C. Smith, and some of their parents took surveys, and included also faculty and staff. They also took some of the surveys as well. And with the interviews, so of course, like I said before, we started with the qualitative interviews. So there was one in-class interview that was with a former MSW student of Johnson C. Smith, and then the students, they also conducted personal interviews on their own. So some of the questions on the transcript, it consisted of information regarding your mental health. So that was your stress, trauma, or depression levels, which could be caused by environmental, social, and biological factors. And then your insight. So, how was your pride, legacy, your experience and beliefs like? How was that affected during your time of attendance at HBCU?
Okay, so for thematic analysis is a method used to identify patterns or themes in qualitative data like interview transcripts. In studying experiences at HBCUs, researchers code texts related to positive or negative experiences, identify subcodes, and generate overarching themes based on recurring patterns, which provides us with valuable insights to our participants' perspectives. For mixed methods design, the PHQ-9 stands for Patient Health Questionnaire, which involves 9 questions. The GAD-7 stands for Generalized Anxiety Disorder, which is a 7-item scale. The SESD stands for Center of Epidemiologic Studies and Depression Scale. All of these screening tools are used in the field of mental health to measure specific psychological constructs.
And next we'll do data analysis.
Greetings. My name is Kamik. I'm going to be doing a portion of the data analysis section. So one of the most important parts of this research was the interviews. And conducting these interviews, the objective was to basically identify the stressors that HBCU attendees experience, such as the stressors, the barriers that stood in front of them, mental health resources, if they utilized them, if they were enough, or basically just the cultural experience around mental health, and these were the results that we found. So based on the interviews that we conducted, these were the major codes, these were the subcodes that helped us discover the themes. Each interviewee played a significant part of our research because they gave us insight and glimpse of exactly what the experiences was. This stems from current students, this stems from alumni, this stems from graduate students further in their education. And each major code, along with the perspectives of the subcode, represents either a positive outlook or negative outlook, and it represents exactly what it exactly was from these subcodes. So as we mentioned earlier, we had conducted 139 participants to complete the survey, and from the surveys that we collected, we received a significant amount of individuals that participated, and it varied from the different age brackets, as we see from 18 to 25 leading at 31%, and then we see from 26 to 35 leading at 26%, following 50 to 65 at 19.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amelia Harris, and I'm going to continue speaking on some of the demographics for the participants of our study. So we decided to essentially examine the roles that everyone played while they were at the prospective HBCU. We found this important because, as we know, outside factors and as well as factors that happen while you're at your school can play an impact into your mental health. So a lot of our participants were full-time students, followed up with being employed. So employment, being a parent, marital status, all those things could be factors that affect your mental health. And that could be positively, it could be negatively. It kind of just depends, obviously, on the situation and the individual. So for our sample interview questions, just to kind of give you some background as to the questions that we asked and why we chose to ask them. So we wanted to focus on trauma, depression, stress, anxiety, and so a lot of our questions were stemmed based upon that because we wanted to really fully get a glimpse as to what these factors are, how they impacted the individuals, and also trying to figure out what we could do to possibly help decrease these circumstances for some of the students. So this is data from one of our questions. So given the following scale below, your HBCU education or the HBCU brand played a role in helping you to achieve your education and professional goals. So as stated earlier, a lot of us take pride in attending an HBCU, and when we decided that we wanted to attend an HBCU, it was very intentional. And so it was really nice to see that a lot of our participants, the majority of our participants strongly agreed or agreed that the role and the brand of the HBCU impacted their educational and professional career goals. Because often we have people who have these misconceptions of what is actually going on in our classrooms or what is actually going on between our conversations with our professors. So we felt that this was a very important question to highlight from our data. And then this data is from another one of our questions that is specifically stemmed on mental health. So please provide your level of agreement with the statement below. On a scale of 1 to 5, my mental health had played a role in my ability to graduate on time. Factors, right? So financial factors, social adjustments. Social adjustments can include just being away from home. It could include something that happened at home while you were on campus. Even trying to get along with peers or make new peers, just involving yourself on campus. Those can all be hard, especially when you initially come into your prospective school. So with mental health playing a role, it was very important to highlight because you even have those people who had little to no stress as well while they were in school, and that impacted them as well. So just highlighting those protective factors as well, like having the support systems or just not experiencing stress at all.
Once we pulled the data from SPSS to highlight basically the traumatic events that graduate students, current students, or alumni students experience during trauma while attending an HBCU, we've seen that they had different types of challenges, and challenges that stem from the unforgettable pandemic COVID-19, financial challenges, and as we can see in the leading rate, there was a lot of people that lost a lot of family members while attending HBCU. We wanted to focus on the stress levels that individuals experience during attending a HBCU or while attending a HBCU now. And we discovered that it was a strong amount of individuals that didn't isolate themselves due to feeling overwhelmed or stressed, which is highlighted to be a good thing because it can stem from utilizing the resources that surrounding the campus or utilizing the HBCU pride.
And then next, our survey question focused on the way that some of the students at HBCU, they cope with stress. And this question said, while attending my HBCU, I did consume some alcohol or substances on a daily or weekly basis to help me cope with stress. And out of the 139 respondents, 30 individuals agreed that they did consume some alcohol or substances on a daily or weekly basis to help them cope. And about 28 individuals disagreed in our study that they didn't use alcohol or substances to cope. And when discussing our test statistics, we analyzed it through the SPSS with race and ethnicity, marital status, and annual income, which emphasizes the significant level of the test statistics, which is less than 0.001. This indicates a highly significant relationship among the variables. We ran a chi-square test to show the relationship between the three variables as listed on the graph. And through SPSS analysis and conducting several chi-square stress and mental health barriers. These factors serve to mitigate the negative impacts of these challenges on students. Regarding race, ethnicity, marital status, income, and peer mentoring, the protective variables of mental health included positive relationships with professors, collaboration with classmates, identifying with the HBCU brand, and building social connections.
So the findings from the research questions that we first had earlier from our conducting our interviews with HBCU students, graduates, and alumni. So we found that the current average age is 27 years old. Our survey showed 60%, which was between 19 and 35 years old, was our ages that we got the most response from. Based on the current HBCU students, performing the role of a student had a significant impact on their stress level or mental health at the time when they was in school. Also, we found that the college level played a significant part with the mental health and the challenges while being in school. Freshman year and sophomore year, which we can understand, being in school, your freshman year, it started out, not being just an adjustment and getting used to school. And also the first year at the master level, which we can understand, is a lot of stress. Surveys also showed that some of the systemic and racial barriers that HBCU students face upon entering the field and their positions were not being able to be hired due to biases of HBCUs, challenges associated with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and HBCUs also being stigmatized as providing low-quality education. Also in our findings, we showed, our surveyors showed that the study had a positive relationship between being enrolled at a HBCU and the student's state of mind. 28% of these students experienced financial challenges, personal challenges, and academic challenges as far as the top three. Also, we know that mental health did play a role in the academic or college adjustment while attending the HBCU. Our study shows that 30% experienced some stress, 22% experienced some anxiety, and 10% experienced some depression. Other questions at that time shows that, did you feel nervous or depressed? 42% agreed, and 25% strongly agreed. So that showed a significant impact. Some of the challenges that were also experienced that made stress, that caused these stressors, was said earlier, was COVID-19, sexual assault, death, and work and life school balance. That was reported from our surveys. Some of the motivational factors that lead HBCU students, graduates, and alumni to pursue higher education: sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment, superior cultural education, and better networking and professional and academic roles. Now, limitations.
Hello again. So now we will go over the limitations. So from our research study, we found 5 limitations. The first one being limited access, the second one being time constraint, the third one being presence at HBCU institutions, the fourth one being understanding race and culture, and the fifth one being other presenting limitations. So for our first limitation, limited access, we face limitations in assessing all individuals at all HBCUs around. If we feel that if we had the time to go talk to other HBCU students, then we would have gotten enough or a lot more information to, kind of build this a little bit more and go on and play with it a little bit more. time constraints, so we only had a year of time to do this research, which is kind of a little bit or a lot of time, but if we would have had more time, we could have went to those necessary HBCUs and talked how we would have liked to. Our presence at HBCUs, it would have been important to get or go to these other HBCUs because nobody understands it more than we do. And so if we get to go to those HBCUs and talk to them about why it's important, maybe we could have had more researchers or more people participate in the research. Understanding race and culture, so as you know, African Americans are not the only people who attend HBCUs. And so seeing if race and culture played in part with the other collectives of attending HBCUs. And then other biases just such as the response rate and recall biases, just, their nervousness about putting that information out there, because some people are nervous about the backlash that they may get. Now we will go over participant suggestions.
Hello again, everyone. After conducting this survey as well as interview, we received feedback from respondents, and these are the suggestions that was given. Moving to more online training, as well as having group workshops and dialogue among younger and older generation students. Promote town hall, church, and community activities, as well as examine mental health barriers and mental health students within mental health students.
Hey, it's Amelia again, everyone. So just to elaborate a little bit on this, so more virtual online training. So we know that we're in this era of virtual trainings and virtual class and so on and so forth. So just making it more accessible to have trainings, but also just provide trainings as a whole. So that kind of goes into like the workshops for younger and older generational students to have those conversations, because we experience different things on different levels, right? So our protective factors may be different from someone in another generation, and some of the factors that cause stress could be different as well. So kind of just working together to figure out how we can better suit both populations, not just one, right? Promoting town hall, church, and community activities. So a lot of participants I know that we spoke to, they're not heavily promoting or even explaining fully what they are. And so utilizing that as a strong tool, because that is a time and place for students to use their voice. And then examining the mental health barriers. So whatever those barriers may be per individual, that's obviously different. So just making sure that we're examining them, addressing them, and then making sure that we're providing resources that are accessible to everyone. And here are our references, and that concludes our presentation. Oh, thank you. That's okay. Okay, so this is now the time for questions. We are here, we are ready. Okay, hey Lauren.
Is there anything that shocked you with like the data that you as you analyze information?
So with the findings, I didn't find anything where researchers showed that we experienced here on this campus, since we had the majority for Johnson C. Smith, that it was parallel with the same things. So I'm not surprised at all. Mm-hmm. We're not surprised where the researchers are showing. The research shows backed up what we felt that was going to be more likely the stressors as far as financial, academic, and peer pressures, the norms.
And another thing that was shocking was that the mental health at a HBCU wasn't as high. Attending at HBCU, they actually showed that they have better mental health, and they're able to go out into the world and network and feel more confident about going into the real world. So that was a very interesting finding in the research.
Okay, Sienna.
The research survey that you all used, was it something you all created or a previous survey?
It was something we created.
So we came together as a class and came up with some questions and certain occupations, questions that were able to reach the communities of people that went to HBCUs, and we came as a class to collectively make that survey.
It was like 51 questions. demographics, open-ended questions, and so it's like strongly for you.
Thank you.
Deja?
Did you guys get any backlash for, you said it was 50 more questions, like, did you get any backlash saying that it was like maybe too long, or what was the feedback as far as the survey? I'll answer that. We honestly didn't get any backlash, especially when we attended the open house event. Because that was something that was a concern that we had as well, but honestly, it seems like it was appreciated and necessary when we were actually, giving out surveys and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I can speak on that a little more. So a lot of people enjoy having these type of conversations just because it opens up to have a conversation about mental health. And in the African American community, sometimes it's hard to have those conversations. So us using that platform and also not looking like each other, but being able to relate to each other a little bit more, it was easy for people to want to have or take those surveys.
I'll say one more thing. There wasn't really any backlash, but there were a couple people who did say that the survey was a little too long, but there wasn't that many people compared to like what they're saying. And then there may have been like 2 or 3 questions that may have confused a couple people every now and then.
Thanks.
We'll go to the back.
Hi, Terry Richard. What would you like
Dr.
to follow? Oh,
Richard.
Dr. Terry Richard.
I just want them to know. Represent.
What would you like to follow up on with your next research based on what you just did?
I personally would like to follow up on what other resources students would be expecting to receive, what they would like it to look like, how they would like it to be presented, because I know everybody's, the way that everyone receives information is not the same. So I would definitely be more willing to know, okay, based upon what you have said and what you have suggested, how would you like it to show up, or how would it be a way for it to be accessible to you when you were on that campus, just to make sure that the needs of the students at the time are being met.
And I would like to add to that, I would say I'd like to see if the stress factors change. So like, of course, we might be, we're still going through the pandemic, but of course years from now it's going to be different. So I'd like to see if there's anything else, in terms of biological and environmental factors that change, that could, either make the stress levels the same or, just change them down.
And then I'd like to add to that, I would like to try to address the financial struggles that people have while attending an HBCU, and maybe connecting with, financial aid or any other scholarships to see how we can help improve that, and then follow up and visit and see how addressing that particular issue, how it helped minimize stress and anxiety and other mental health issues related to financial.
And I'm gonna add to that also, the faculty and staff, I'd like to see, because the majority of the MSW students have really took the survey, so maybe if the support may change, that's something that I'd like to see, because we do get some support, but I want to see if there's going to be a significant difference in that as well with HBCU students.
And then, and also, as I was doing the research, I would like to see if mental health plays a role with the number of HBCU, the number of students now attending HBCUs. They're coming. The enrollments are getting higher and higher. So I wonder, is that a big factor as far as them coming to the HBCUs instead of going out to the PWIs?
Dr. Duncan.
Great job, everyone. Yes. So my question is, did you have a process of paying attention to your biases while remaining objective to complete this research? That's a good question, isn't it?
You have to stick to the research.
Ask it one more time, Dr. Duncan.
So was there a process that you had that you employed to be aware of your biases and to remain objective to the study?
I can speak on that a little bit.
Reflexivity, we talked about it.
I can speak a little bit. So most of us did attend HBCUs. And so with our biases, we try to use that in a positive way. And so that's where we use to kind of gear those questions like, we know we dealt with some issues, so what are some other issues that other students may deal with? And so we just try to kind of focus it around us, but also what other HBCU students need. But then also you guys, our wonderful professors, taught us to take off our biases and use everybody else's lens, and so we also try to use that as well.
Ready.
Students or individuals going through, or because it's college and, you know, that's kind of like the culture of college?
Well, the question that we spoke on in the study was in relation to coping with the stress. So whether that was because, you know, I'm not going to blame it on being in college because the question was just centered around the stress as a whole. So it would, I guess, to answer more of that question, would it be, are individuals using alcohol or substances outside of school as well? Or were they only using it while they were in school? And now that they're out of school, have things changed for them? So on and so forth.
Just the more direct research shows that there was a connection. So stress, like they did use alcohol and substance use. It was like a coping mechanism. So research shows that that's what was used to cope with stress.
Any other questions?
We did it, y'all. Looks like I want to throw up. Thanks, guys.
So, again, let's give them. I just want to stress to the other folks in the audience that this is not easy for these students, right? Like some of them have never done a research to this magnitude, right? And to delve into this for over a year. The other thing that I think is critically important to kind of point out about this is it's one thing if you're doing a research study by yourself, when you got, you know, 1 or 2 people that you're doing it with. They have to go through this process, all of the stages of the scientific research process collectively. So it's a lot of conveying of information, who's doing what. You saw them kind of coming up in different terms. And so to do a research project with this many people and everyone having responsibilities is not an easy thing to do. But we do it, and I can see Professor White saying, because she taught this class. But we do this because we're building skills of working together in teams while you're learning the process. And we use peer-to-peer scaffolding in these groups so that, and someone said it best, like, students sometimes can convey information to other students so much better than an instructor can do it. And so it's so much learning that goes on in this process. So that is the reason that we do it. So great job on that, everyone. We're going to take about 5 minutes break so that my class can get ready, and then we'll get started. So we'll get started right back at, let's just even 3:30, we'll get started. With your group? Yeah.
Oh.
Right, your poses. There we go. That's a wonderful job.
promise you, you were good. Oh, dude. Okay, cool.
People like this right now inspire me.
It's working. It's working. You're already doing it. You're already doing it. Right. I know. For me, it was the same thing. It was like, it was an opportunity for me to learn, but I had those same individuals go back to the old thing. You just go through it? But then you want to be mad because we're 50 and 50 right? I mean, that's part of what all we did with this process. Like, come on, like, Jay, why are we at 50 and 50? Yeah. So, okay, all right, but whatever you can, I mean, you guys.
Okay.
So that they can, because it was easier for y'all to transition.
We're gonna switch.
I know, and that's it. You love to do it, and that's it. And I love it. Oh, I don't want to be on here. Is this off? I hope that's turned off, isn't it?
No.
Oh, Lord. So, oh, they got stuff up there.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta move.
Can I get y'all to switch to the front class?
Yeah.
It's easier to
No.
transition. You all are going to be here.
Okay, so can I get something to eat right quick?
Yeah.
I don't want to be on that.
Luciano. Hey, can y'all move y'all stuff and sit over here? That's how y'all should come to class every day. Hey, Doc, can you make sure your class
I gotta go to the you know what? How well? We still, I still gotta do some. Which one?
I don't know yet, but we're gonna figure it out. When I find out, I'm gonna let you know.
Hey, can you get your class to make sure they come, so they can transition their stuff back? Yeah, and we got everybody? So my class can sit. It was an easier transition.
All right.
I'll be waiting.
Yeah, we're gonna sit on these two first two rows. So get in. Yeah, you want to come right down. Give me your first two rows.
Bag for sale.
I don't know who ate two bags right here. They gotta get that up out of there.
Or Dr. Harris. It's not Dr. Harris. Y'all on the first one.
We'll get started second. Trying to get everything situated.
Jesus.
Or should you sit here?
Nice.
Right. Wait. So we're gonna go out this way.
I want to look like a big old boo. I should be wearing this.
Y'all got y'all orders?
No, like. I just want to make sure I have
So, lit review.
Data collection, data management.
With someone's bag right now, I'm not sure it's that. Right. That's not your color.
Can you have your class come back to you?
No, it's gonna be 6. It's gonna be 6. My phone.
You know, right? We got this.
Yeah, y'all ready?
We ready.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, he did.
Don't jump.
This is recorded.
Oh, okay.
Okay, everyone, we're gonna go ahead and get started for the second group. My class, so you can see the title, Impact of Gentrification on Community Health. So we had a number of topics that we kind of sorted through to get to the topic that was of greatest interest for the collective in our section. I think this one probably had the most votes every time we went through the cycle of voting on topics. To me, it wasn't surprising that we settled here. In 2015, I think it was, Harvard came out with a study, Chetty, the author, and his colleagues came out with a study that looked at upward mobility in the 50 biggest metro cities in America. And of that list of 50 metro cities, Charlotte was at the bottom. What that meant, the implications of that study was that if you were born in poverty in Charlotte, out of the 50 cities, you were more likely to die in poverty, right? Meaning that you would not be able to elevate your economic status in Charlotte. And that study aligned with the observation that we see even around this university. It begins to speak to why we are 50 of 50. If you were here on this campus just 10 years ago, the outer perimeters around Johnson C. Smith did not look like this. The picture that you see up here is reflective of what you will see and honestly beginning to see less of, because the smaller house to the left is no longer there anymore, right? And so this group wanted to come together to see what does that look like. This is an exploratory study, just kind of collecting more descriptive types of information to see what does it look like for the community members, and how does that align with what we identified as community health. The students are going to actually define what community health, that variable is. They're going to tell you how we define that. And we're going to look at what were some of the interactions between the impact of gentrification on community health across those attributes that we've identified. And so without further ado, I'm going to let my students do what they do. I got you.
So as Dr. Heron mentioned, we completed an exploratory study looking at the processes and outcomes of gentrification in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the outcomes in the overall community health. So how we looked at community health, it consisted of mental health, community cohesion, as well as economic health. There are some studies out there that have stated that gentrification can have a negative impact on residents' mental health, physical health, as well as the cohesion within their community. So gentrification in itself is a complex concept, and it does not have an explicit definition to define what it is. However, studies have shown a general consensus of describing gentrification as a form of change within a neighborhood or disruption within a neighborhood. However, when you're looking at the studies of gentrification, it's typically on the processes and not the outcomes. And so that's why our presentation is so important, because we're looking at both as versus looking at one over the other. And now I'm going to turn it over to my cohort member to talk a little bit more about gentrification within Charlotte.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamar Champion, and I'm just going to quickly go over the background of gentrification. So for us, we were really looking at, of course, gentrification has happened for decades, but we were looking at significant changes. So like even dating back into 1988, when we were looking at the Middleville project and how they switched that area up. So significant changes we were looking at when we were talking about the light rail being implemented in 2016, or the rezoning, because we have community development planning meetings all the time, and we rezone areas and they make plans about putting new businesses in or new houses that may be of a higher economic status. So we were looking at what that looks when it comes to putting a higher economic building or business or house in a lower economic community. And that's really, really what we wanted to focus on. So when we started looking at that variables, we wanted to know, like, what does that look like? How does that impact the people that's already in this environment? So we were looking at mental health, economic health, and community cohesion. So the economic health, we really wanted to look at if they have some type of financial burden or some type of pressure because of property taxes raising up, because from 2019 to 2023, property taxes went up 74%. So everything is a whole lot more expensive in these urban communities now. So if we are looking at that, how does that play on mental health? Is it increasing their stress? Is it increasing their anxiety? But we also wanted to look at that, not only that, but looking at community cohesion. So community cohesion is all about a sense of the community. So if you don't feel supported in the community that you are now in, or your community is now unfamiliar to you, does that also raise your mental health? Does it increase your anxiety? Does it increase your stress? And for our mental health variables, we were looking at anxiety, depression, anger, fear, and stress. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dina. No, I'm lying. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren, and I'm going to allow her to tell you about the community cohesion variable.
So when I was researching what community cohesion is and what it looks like, a general consensus talked about how it's essentially a protective factor and a positive aspect. So the higher your community cohesion, the better it is for your community if you're experiencing gentrification. Another study has showed that a lack of community cohesion can have an impact on your mental health, physical health, as well as how you're feeling connected within your community.
Hello, my name is Dina Van Buren, and I'll be talking to you about economic health. And the economic health, what it does is it allows us to see what the impact that gentrification has on the individuals living in that neighborhood. It can be both positive or negative. Oftentimes it's negative, but some of the positive things is that the property value goes up in your home. There's an economic boom in the business, and then there's just extra money coming into the community. But on the flip side, negative side, there's often displaces like long-time members of the community. They get displaced and move somewhere, so local businesses are closed down, so you can't go to that mom and pop shop or that barber shop or the salons and stuff like that, so it impacts it that way. It could either be an economic boom or it could be a downfall for individuals who have been living there for a long time.
Coming back to mental health. So when I was looking at the research and the studies, a lot of the articles that I found were talking about displacement and how displacement raises levels of stress in the residents that within that community. And then other studies were talking about economic health. So when we're raising taxes and these people have to move, the increase of stress that happens, the increase of anxiety, and the increase in depression. And one of the studies were saying that for a mom that was in that area and got a big bit, her anxiety level and her depression level were super high, and they were high years after her eviction. I think it was up to 2 years after her eviction, she was still feeling high levels of anxiety and high levels of depression. I didn't happen to find any studies on the contrast of it when we were talking about mental health positively affecting gentrification in a positive relationship. That doesn't mean that it's not out there, because what I did also find is it's highly understudied. So it's not a lot of studies when we're talking about how the impact of gentrification in mental health. So we're doing that. We also looked at the theoretical framework. One of the theories that we decided to look at was PBES theory. And PBES theory was developed in 1993 by Margaret Spencer. She was looking at the academic achievement of African American boys, and she wanted to know how the environment that they were in affected and impacted them. And that's basically kind of what we wanted to do in this study too. We wanted to look and see how gentrification and the environment they were now in was impacting their experiences and how they were going to continue on. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dina, and I'm going to allow her to tell you about how we apply the PBES model to our study.
As you can see, there are 5 parts to the PBES, but I'm only going to go over a few parts so that you have a better understanding on how they connect to each other. For the first one, we'll talk about vulnerability. In vulnerability, there's the risk factors, and then there's protective factors. As far as risk factors, there's a social disruption. So there may be where you and I were best friends or something like that, because you were impacted and you had to move. So now that's a friend that's going away. That's someone that I can catch a ride with, or maybe borrow a couple of sugar, or even a couple of dollars. And also, the lack of affordable housing, because the people are impacted with the higher taxes or with the $250,000, $61 million home comes in. So now that person, that the taxes are higher, and they're paying the same tax as the person that has that, that big home that's like $1 million or however much. Also, this is cultural marginalization. Normally, like people that may look like you, they're no longer there, and then sometimes they may be there, and you may be just walking, trying to go to the store, and you have someone come to you and say, "What are you doing here?" Because the neighborhood has a new infrastructure, new sidewalks, the spa, the tanning salons, I don't know, just whatever shop, the poke shop, stuff like that. So, poke shops, so Starbucks. Well, there are Starbucks and a dog park. You guys like dog park, thank you for the help. But we also have, a protective factor. That's when the community come together and say, hey, you may want this in your neighborhood. But no, we're gonna keep this mom and pop shop because, hey, I don't know about you, there's certain type of meats and stuff that I would like to go into and be able to still afford that. I like my neck bones and my oxtails and stuff like that. You're not going to get that at the Whole Foods Fresh Market. And also, another productive, positive thing is job opportunities, with the new business and stuff like that. But at the same time, you want to make sure that those new job opportunities is not pushing someone out that's been there a long time. And another one we'll talk about, which is number 5, we'll talk about, we're going to talk about the coping outcome, and it's unproductive and productive. So we'll talk about withdrawal. What I mean by withdrawal, sometimes you may not even want to fight when all these different things are coming in. You're like, you know what, I gave up, I'm not going to fight. But that's not a good thing, because when you don't fight for your rights, then other people, they're supposed to be heard and you're supposed to not be heard. So yeah, you'll have that Whole Food Market, and you will not have your oxtails. I want my oxtails. And also, when you don't fight, it limits room for growth, and you do not want that to happen with it limits the room, and creativity, things like that. You want things like that to happen. And as far as productive, there's the cultural things. So when I talk about culture, we're talking about MLK, Juneteenth, that's what road. I don't know if some of you guys have been here for that. And also JCSU homecoming. JCSU! That's right, so we gotta keep things like that. Like, you hear the bands playing. I don't know about you, but I love walking down the street and I'm in here like a like red minute. But if you don't fight, that may or may not happen. So those are just a few of the things that I want to talk to us for as females.
So the other theoretical framework that we looked at is gentrification-induced social and cultural displacement and place identity theory. This is also a very complex framework as well as unique framework. What makes it complex is that it pulls from 4 different theories to describe the gentrification for long-standing Black residents. But I'm only going to talk about 2 today, which is the collective identity theory and place identity theory. When we're looking at collective identity theory, we're talking about the we feeling that we have within larger groups. So if we're looking at long-standing Black residents, we're talking about racial identity. And how does that come up? We talk about shared experiences, our interactions with oppressive systems. And that's how we look at that. And within this theory specifically, it talks about how long-standing Black residents start to feel like an other or out of place within their community as there is an increase in white residents in their neighborhood. When we're looking at place identity, we are looking at the interactions of the places that we make up. Or within this theory, it talks about the racialization of space, like your neighborhood. So when we're looking at systemic racism and we're looking at Black Americans, we were typically forced into specific neighborhoods. And within those neighborhoods, we have this attachment to place because of our culture, our beliefs, and our values. And within this, it's theorized that our collective identity and our place identity are inseparable for Black Americans. It's kind of hard to take them apart and look at them as one and the other. And so when we're looking at place identity as well within this theory, it is described as a protective factor.
So the higher your place identity, the less likely you're going to have the negative outcomes of gentrification, or you'll have more of a pushback on gentrification as it's coming into your community.
And I'll talk about some of the research questions and hypotheses. And the first one is, how does gentrification impact the community health? Was the first question. And the hypothesis was, gentrification has no impact on community health. The second, gentrification will have a negative relationship with overall community health. Gentrification will have a negative relationship with economic health. And gentrification will have a negative relationship with mental health.
And now we're going to turn it over to David Clutch.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Middlebrooks, and I will be discussing the data collection methods, how we collected our data, and also how we stored our data. And to gather quantitative information, we used a 36-question survey. And to gather our qualitative information, we asked 3 open-ended questions about gentrification. We used 2 techniques to gather our data. The first technique we used was convenience sampling, and this involves selecting participants based on their accessibility or availability. This method is cost-effective, efficient, and easy to implement. So, and we opted for this because we could literally pick a location, set up our table, engage with the people, and collect our information. The second technique that we used was snowball sampling. This involved asking research participants to identify other individuals, and these individuals were usually within their social network. Now, using that technique proved very beneficial to us, so it helped us to exceed our goal of 100 participants. And it was also useful because Reggie and Jasmine were familiar with the communities that we were going in because they grew up in those communities. Now, the method that we used to store our information was a combination lockbox. And it is exactly what you see on the screen. It was fireproof, waterproof. We wanted to make sure our information was kept confidential and secure. I will turn it over to you next.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Mack, and how we organized our locations was first really by observation. So as you guys came here in your cars today, you got off from 85 or 77, you turned on the Batesboro Road, you noticed things. You noticed that we have a light rail. You noticed, your mom and pop shops, but you also noticed those brick duplexes next to luxury condominiums, homes, things that you used to know that was notable to you was not there anymore. So these are the things that we kind of harped on when it came to deciding where we wanted to be. So we chose North Druid Hills community, Batesboro Road, Plaza Midwood, and the NODA area. Next was our community connections. Me and Reggie are from this area, so it was easy for us to lean on our family and our friends to help us get to the folks that were displaced that are no longer here anymore. Next was our community collaborations. We got a lot of help from the pastor at St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Clifford Matthews. We got help from Ms. Fox from Sugar Creek Library, and we also went up to the Archive Black coffee shop up here to sit there and talk to some of the folks that were coming in. We also participated in the Samaritan's Lunch, which they do at St. Luke from Monday through Thursday, 12 to 1, where they give out free food to the community. And next I'm going to pass it off to Reggie.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go over some of the challenges and barriers that we had while we were trying to find participants to participate in our survey. So some of the barriers that we came across was participants' limited knowledge of gentrification, length of the survey, reliability of participants to complete online surveys, the lack of diversity with participants who completed the survey, gaining trust from participants, incomplete surveys, and explaining the questions that require participants to give a scale of 1 to 10. And I'm just gonna go over some of the ones that, I'm just point out some of the key ones. Participants' limited knowledge of gentrification. The participants that we found to fill out our surveys, they are from these communities that are being gentrified. They are victims of gentrification, but they don't know the exact terminology of what's going on to them. So when we asked them to fill out our surveys, we had to explain to them what is this survey about and the possibility of this survey being published, and that way we can bring awareness to this issue. And another one was the length of the survey. You know, our people, we ain't got time. We ain't got time, so whenever we ask them to, you know, fill out the survey for us, they thumbed through and they was like, hey, I don't know if I got that much time. So that was another issue because the length of the survey questions, it was 36 questions. And another one that I wanted to talk about was the lack of diversity. We were not able to really get the surveys completed by the newcomers, I should say, inside of the community. That was some of the barriers that we faced. But we also had successes, and I want to. All right, so I also want to talk about some of the successes that we had completing our surveys. And one of the main successes that we had was collaborating with the community. Like Jasmine pointed out, me and her are from these communities. We are familiar with the people in the community. And when we reached out to places like the Sugar Creek Library or St. Luke Baptist Church, they wasn't hesitant to help us. And Sugar Creek Library allowed us to set up during some of their public events like free tax event and the kids reading event. They allowed us to set up a table. They printed out QR scan codes for participants to complete surveys online, and they encouraged those who were at the library to come by our table and complete some of the surveys. So those are some of the successes. And another success I want to talk about is just share a personal story. On the first day that we went out to get these surveys completed, when we went out into the community, I was able to talk to a gentleman from the Bailey's-Ford community, and he shared with me that it came to a point where they were going to sell their family home, and he begged his grandma not to sell the family home. But unfortunately, she sold it anyway, and he said the outcome of that was the disbursement of their family. They no longer got together to celebrate historical holidays, cookouts, 4th of July, and things like that. And also, they were not able to provide shelter for family members who may have fell on hard times and didn't have a place to go at the time. And it really kind of, broke up their family. So that's just one of the stories that I wanted to share.
And one of the stories that I wanted to share was of two women that I met at the Good Samaritan's lunch at St. Luke. I met two women, and they told me that they grew up in that neighborhood. Their mother had passed away, and the property value had went up on their houses, so they could not afford it. and they became a part of the unhoused community that you see in North Druid Hills community. With that, they turned to substances to be able to cope. And I also want to add that we wanted this data collection to be more of storytelling, and we wanted to convey and advocate for those who feel like they don't have a voice. So this is why we took this approach as being personal. As me and Rachel are from this area, we've seen it change. I personally know someone that was displaced and has gone through really hard times, so we wanted to take this moment to shine a light on them and also wish them well and try to come together as a community to help them when we do see them and advocate in spaces that they cannot be in.
And lastly, I wanted to share one of the people that I interviewed that was a highlight to me. She was a lady that was from the Betty's Ford area. She grew up there, she had been there all her life, and she was homeless. And even though she was homeless, she still had a sense of community. Even though Betty's Ford is being gentrified, she felt safe. She said she knew places she could go to if she was hungry. And she told me, she said, I'm going to educate you on Betty's Ford 101. And that's exactly what she did. She stood on the corner and she pointed out all the places that used to be. She pointed out the area of school that she used to go to. So for me, I think for all of us, the highlight of data collection was engaging with the people. It was a joy. And people really did enjoy sharing their stories of how things used to be. And then lastly, one of the highlights was when we were at the church. We were able to meet Congresswoman Alma Adams, which is the picture that you see of us, that second picture up top. We got a chance to share about the research, and we even asked her if she would fill out a survey, but of course she could not, because she said, I believe it's a conflict of interest. But that was our last highlight of just engaging with the community and collecting the data.
And next up will be data management.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Jones. Thanks to the hard work of the data collection team, data management received 3 waves of completed participant surveys that consisted of 103 total surveys. We received the surveys via uploads to a secure OneDrive account. The figure above demonstrates the structural assembly of the OneDrive. The categorization and arrangement of the folders ensured that all of the data from each group was in its proper place and helped to avoid organizational errors. Once each wave of surveys were received, the raw data was extracted and transcribed onto a spreadsheet. The figure above also shows that as well. The raw data was processed prior to coding and includes the specific participant answers to survey questions, such as their identified gender, age, income, etc. The raw data was later coded and transcribed onto another spreadsheet, and lastly, the coded data was uploaded to the SPS codebook. At the end of the surveys, there were 3 qualitative research questions that participants had the option to answer or not. Data management received 17 surveys that also have the qualitative interview questions answered. We transcribed the answers onto a spreadsheet and sent it to data analysis for further processing. Now I will pass it over to Evangeline to discuss points of error, data irregularities, and data.
Good afternoon. My name is Evangeline York, and I am a data management team member responsible for keeping the data secure. As stated, the data collection team collected 103 surveys. 66 of those surveys were hard copies and were scanned into the applied research class OneDrive account. Also, 37 of the surveys were completed by way of Google Forms and uploaded into the OneDrive account. The account was password protected, and only the research class and our professor, Dr. Henry, had access. The hard copies were kept secured with a fireproof and water-resistant combination lockbox. The same lockbox that data collection had. I had, but mine was blue. I think theirs was black. Mine was blue. When we access the data, from the OneDrive, we noticed some errors and irregularities in the responses as we entered the raw data into the Excel spreadsheet. The main error with the responses was that many of the questions were left unanswered. And we are unsure if they did not understand the question or they just didn't want to answer the question. Also, there were 2 surveys that were duplicates. And duplicate surveys can affect the results of the survey. Therefore, the data collection team removed one from the raw data. Excuse me. On some of the surveys, when the participants were asked to rate the question on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the least and 10 being the most, some provided written answers instead. For example, when asked, I feel I have a say in what changes occurred in my neighborhood, they answered yes instead of rating the question. On 17 surveys, the responses to the 3 interview questions had spelling and grammatical errors, and some of the words were crossed out. The data management team transcribed those questions and leaving out the cross. And when we transcribed the questions, we left out the crossed out words. Next up is how we formulated the code book.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Baldwin, and I have been wrapping it up for data management, but with code book formulation. The code book was formulated in SPS. The code book explains all the variables that are present in our data files. The data files will set up a big question with numeric value. We transfer the data to SPS. Let me just be myself. And upon receiving the data, y'all know how it is. That's right. Upon receiving the data from data collection, let me just say, these waves were something. I'm just going to be real with you. And so we had to enter. So you're looking at 36 participants, 33 questions. We had to input all that. So it wound up being, let me just, because I had to add that up for y'all, 3,007. And we broke it up to 3. So we all entered 1,236 participants and information. And so with that, it was something. Just to be real with you, with Dr. Aaron, we have a report out, and you're like, whoa, and you report out everything that we have done. And just to see his face light up like, okay, you like, what? But okay, but I'm going back to it. But yes, that's what we did. And so once we did receive all the information, we put it on Excel spreadsheet that's right up there. And upon completion of the raw data, it was coded, uploaded to SPS, and we get ready to pass it on to data analysis, where they took it, and they took it to the next level.
Sam is hilarious, boy.
I try not to. Have to be myself.
Hello everyone, my name is Deja Ramey, and I was a part of the data analysis group. Statistical analysis were ran in SPSS using descriptive statistics. to summarize, describe, and understand the qualitative data set. So, like I said, I was in charge of running frequencies. A frequency in statistics is a count of how often something occurs or event in a survey response happens. In this study, frequencies were ran in SPSS for all 12 of our demographic questions among the participants that participated. This comprehensive approach allowed for a detail of understanding participants' population characteristics, which is essential for contextualizing the impact of gentrification on community health. Running frequencies on the demographic questions provided a snapshot of the study's participant population. It allowed my group and I to identify key demographic trends such as racial composition, income distribution, occupational types, and age ranges. Above is a table that displays 12 of our demographic questions. Some of the different demographics that stood out significantly were race, income, and occupant status. Based on the areas data collection collected data, 87.45% of our data was African Americans. 4.9% were Caucasian/white, 1% was Hispanic/Latino, 2.9% were Asian, and 3.9% answered other to the demographic question. Next to income, 22.3% of the participants' income ranged between $41,000 and $80,000. 11.7% between 0 and 20,000. 19.4% between 21,000 and 40,000, and 9% between 81,000 and 100,000. 11.7% 101,000 to 200,000, and 1% answered not applicable. Next to education, so 23.3% of our participants obtained a bachelor's degree or a master's. 1.9% answered to having some level of high school, and 17.5% had a high school diploma. 10.7% had an associate's degree, and 20.4% had some college, some trade, some technical certification. 2.9% of our population had a doctorate or a PhD. Now to occupant. 45.6% were homeowners, and 51.5% were renters. Number of years in homes stood out significantly in our study. So 26.2% answered to being in their home for 0 to 3 years, and 20.4% answered to being in their home to 3 to 5 years. 17.5% answered to being in their home for 5 to 10 years. 14.6% answered 10 to 20 years, and 21.4% answered to being in their home for 20 or more years. Lastly, I will be discussing the frequencies of the number of years in their neighborhood. 21.4% answered to being in their neighborhood for 0 to 3 years, 19.4% answered 3 to 5 years, 19.4% answered 5 to 10, and 14.6% answered 10 to 20 years, and 24.3% answered to being in their neighborhood for over 20 or more years.
Hi, my name is Nikisha Hammond. So in addition to frequencies, I'll be going over cross tabulations. So crosstabs are very similar to frequencies as well. Crosstabs, instead of running just one variable, crosstabs
I get you on that.
All right.
Are we not coming back?
Yeah.
It's okay. Name of the game.
So far, it just clocked out.
we're doing so good. It's back up. That's all. There we go.
There you go. The power of the Lord.
Technical difficulties, of course. All right, so as I stated, my name is Keisha Hammond, and I'll be going over the cross-tabulation analysis that we ran. So, in addition to frequencies, cross-tabulations were also ran in SPSS. Crosstabs are similar to frequencies as well, but we have those frequencies on a basis of two variables simultaneously instead of just the one. Crosstab analyses can bring forth useful information about possible relationships between two variables. Notable demographic categories from our study, such as age, income, and occupancy, presented possible relationships with our study's mental health variables, economic variables, as well as our community cohesion variables. So I'll go over some of these crosstab and the results, but I won't go through all of them. So 76% of participants earned an annual income of $80,000 or less, which included 100% of the Hispanic Latino participants in that bracket, as well as 100% of the Asian participants within that bracket. 80% of the white participants fall within that bracket, as well as 75% of the participants who mark other. Also, 74% of the Black African American participants also fall within that criteria of income of $80,000 or less annually. 31% of participants who made $80,000 or less often and very often felt anxiety when thinking about their neighborhood changes. 100% of the participants who experienced feelings of anger, often or very often due to changes happening in their neighborhood, also fell in the category of earning $80,000 or less annually. On a scale from 1 to 10, 64% of participants are renters who selected a 4 or less on the scale to describe their feelings about neighborhood changes being met for them. 82% of participants aged 49 or younger describe their feelings in having a say in changes occurring in a neighborhood as a 4 or less. Additional results from the crosstabs also provided. 82% of participants who were 49 or younger described having a say in changes occurring in their neighborhood as a 1. 54% of participants scaled the personality of their neighborhood changing as a 7 or higher. 83% of those participants' annual income was $80,000 or more, and 47% of those participants scaled a 10 to describe the personality of their neighborhood changing.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sienna Alexander, and I was responsible for the correlations part of the analysis. When we run correlations in SPSS, we are looking for how do the different variables are described and how the relationship is. So we're looking at the direction, the strength, and the significance of the two variables, or multiple variables. And with it being significant, that means that we did not get that by chance. And the probability of something being significant has to be either 95% or 99%. So when we look at the first example we have here, we see the variables of income and the mental health variables. So we see that income is significantly correlated with feelings of depression, feelings of anxiety, feelings of stress, and feelings of anger. We did have 5 mental health variables, so one of them that it was not significantly correlated with was fear, and that signifies to us an undertone of resilience for the people that were surveyed. Some other variables that were significant was race and ethnicity with feelings of anger, and occupancy type was also significantly correlated with depression, anxiety, fear, and anger. So this tells us that more likely someone is a renter entered, they are more likely to feel depression, anxiety, fear, and anger. So when we look at our findings and we break up our different hypotheses, our first hypothesis is gentrification will have a negative relationship with economic health. This means that, so one of the variables that we see that are significant is homeowners are more likely to feel that long-standing businesses were being replaced by different businesses, as well as perceiving that expensive and fancier grocery stores are opening up in their neighborhood. So 9 of 17% participants cited increasing in costs and finances in their neighborhood as the most impactful gentrification outcome on their economic health. So a lot of people, when they did their qualitative information, they talked about increasing in finances. One participant described this as, it's hard to survive when it comes to bills versus money being made. And another participant said it has caused stores to go up a lot and I can't afford it. So our next hypothesis is gentrification will have a negative relationship with mental health. From our findings, we see that participants with lower income were more likely to feel depressed, anxious, stressed, and anger about the changes happening in their neighborhood. 4 of 17 participant responses cited that their feelings of anger, stress, and or anxiety were due to the various changes in their neighborhood caused by gentrification. One participant put on their survey, upsets me to see such a contrast in the surrounding areas of NODA. It is very clear that the gentrification is happening right before our eyes. I've seen people who appear to be in a house not even a mile from 36th Street that includes $1 million homes. Many old buildings were torn down and replaced with luxury homes and or huge homes. It's depressing to seeing minority families pushed out of NODA. And I think that this comment reflects what our data collection team says that they got as responses when they were doing their portion. And then our last hypothesis was gentrification will have a negative relationship with community cohesion. Participants with higher incomes were more likely to feel welcome in their neighborhoods, and lower income participants were more likely to feel the personality of the neighborhood has changed. 7 of 14 participants cited various reasons for less community cohesion in their neighborhoods caused by gentrification, including less friendly neighbors and a loss of stories about their culture being told. I think that also speaks to what data collection was saying, how people were eager to be able to tell their personal stories to anyone that was listening. Like Ms. Kim said, someone said about Betty Ford 101, she was very eager to get that out. When we moved in 27 years ago, we knew everyone in the neighborhood. There was all types of financed homes, people, normal things could afford to move in. Now you have to be on the top of the finance ladder.
Don't keep going this time. Alright, so next I'll go over the limitations within our study. So sampling techniques were not random selection. So as our data collection team stated, they use convenience sampling and snowballing as well. With that sampling, it's more flexible, and the data that comes from that collection may not be as reliable as opposed to using random sampling. And then the need for a larger sample size. So this particular topic for our study, we had 103 surveys that were completed. Again, the reliability of our sample size, we may not be able to generalize the results from this particular study to apply to a larger population. The measurement instrument was modified from an existing tool and has not been tested for reliability as well. Identification of gentrified areas for data collection was based on observation as opposed to an actual economic matters or the method behind picking the neighborhoods. This was an exploratory study with only preliminary analysis and just a missed opportunity to gather extensive qualitative data from the participants. more so due to this time constraint of the study, but that closes our limitations.
And I'm back again to wrap us up. Future implications. So advocacy and resources to support those residents who wish to remain in their neighborhoods, and then the community level interventions to facilitate relationships between Native and new residents, and then access to mental health. So access to mental health, providing resources for bigger issues such as income and residents being able to stay in their home, providing resources to help deal with these changes. And then by implementing advocacy efforts, community level interventions, and access to mental health resources, neighborhoods can create environments that support well-being and resilience for all residents, especially those who wish to remain rooted in their communities. Thank you.
Now we're moving to questions.
So we're back, right?
Dr. Duncan?
Wonderful job. My question is, now that you've completed this research study, has your attitude changed? Or has it improved, or is it negative towards wanting to do more research?
I'll answer that. It definitely has changed, because looking at the whole totality of our project right here, we know social workers definitely need to get out more macro. We got to get out there. And if we do not get out there, we won't be able to formulate the whole, how we formulated this to bring some more information to it. So right now, today, we're looking at the different diversities of how gentrification is all over. But looking at the neighborhoods that we chose, you get to see the people's faces. And then when I read some of the surveys, I was like, I had to talk to Dr. Herron. I was like, this is heart-wrenching. Because you think about, you've been in your home for 25 plus years, and because of the community, everything is changing, you're ready to move. In today's society, where they're gonna go. So yes, it definitely changed my attitude towards it.
Can I add to that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it changed my attitude too. In another class, we have we did a community assessment, and it's teaching us how to go to a community, speak with the individuals that's within the community, the businesses and things like that, and gather that information. And I think it is important, especially for our community, because like I said, the victims of gentrification, they may not know exactly what it is, but they are bearing the front of the outcome of gentrification. And they don't know that the reason why all of the resources was taken out of your community, because gentrification, like Dr. Herron taught us, is a plan for many years, 10 years. Government officials are planning these things for years to come. And so they get with, the people who own the capital, and they remove these resources from these neighborhoods, knowing that it's going to bring down the property value, and 10 years later they'll be able to come back and buy these properties at a cheaper rate and move out the residents instead, and then you as a resident get to see all these new buildings, all these new things coming, and you can't even take advantage of it because all the resources were taken out of the neighborhood. And it's like, it's unfair because, the media tells us that our people are just not capable of pulling ourselves up by the bootstrap. Little do our people really know that this is a strategy that's being done behind closed doors. So if we could do this research and get it publicized and get the media to see exactly what's going on, I feel like we can make an impact.
And although it's something so short. So in the beginning, it was between gentrification and maternal health. And I really wanted to do maternal health because that is a passion of mine. So when we picked gentrification, I was so devastated. I was so irritated. I was devastated. You can ask Dr. Herron. I was like, I don't want to do this. And he was like, no, this is impactful. And honestly, it definitely changed my viewpoint of the whole process. Just being able to collaborate as a class, I enjoyed doing this project.
Yeah, and I want to add on something as well. As a person who's a transplant from California, it helped me see that people
people like me are actually, in a way, sort of kind of hurting the community as well, even though, like, I'm not coming with that intention, and I'm like, wow, these apartments are so cheap, they're so nice, but to the locals, they've already been priced out. So I would like to see more research done on, like, how transplants coming in, because people tend to think that the gentrifier is just this rich white family from wherever, when really it's everyday people who are maybe leaving somewhere. Because if you guys are familiar with the Bay Area, it's just very, very, very expensive. You know, so people who've already been priced out of their homes are trying to find a cheaper place, which is now further pricing out people in that place from their home. So I would love to see more research done on that.
I would say for me personally, my views have not changed. But as a scholar, I would say that I would like to do more research on the outcomes. So as we discussed, it's not thoroughly research on the outcomes itself, it's just more so the processes. But also we are very intentional with our variables. So there may be other variables that we did not think of to explore. And so I definitely would like to do more.
So, I'm sorry. So just to piggyback off of like future research and how I feel about it, a lot of the data that I saw, specifically if I was interested in more research, I would probably condense the sample size and focus on that group that were 49 and younger. A lot of the variables that I saw, especially the mental health variables, the community cohesion scales where they were on the later part of the scale, it portrayed disconnect from those 49 and younger, and then our elder participants as well. And just piggybacking off of the community assessment that we're doing as well, the communities that I'm serving, I see that in real time. So I would like to see how future research, the outcomes of those participants that are 49 and younger, that provided higher answers on the scale as it pertains to those mental health variables. Not a lot of people put anything above 7, but those who did, they were all 49 and younger and made less than 80,000. So I just thought that would be a great place to start to further the research.
I would say that this has also made me want to further research, because it's one thing to know about something, but then to be knee deep into the research, and then your classmates coming back to you and telling you about how this has like touched people that they have spoken to weekly. I think that has increased my passion in gentrification. I've always known about it and known what it is and known what, you know, people being displaced and things like that. But being able to collaborate with everyone and understand the individual experience is another thing. And then, like they said, doing the community assessment. I'm sorry. We're talking with people as well, and just being in the communities and looking to the left of the street and then to the right of the street, and just, it's drastic. I'm sorry, we can go ahead.
First of all, wonderful job, great presentation, great project. My question is, any of you, now that you've completed this topic of your research, want to address this problem as a practitioner? You all about to graduate, about to have your studies. How many of you want to go out and get your hands dirty and address this? And what are you going to do about it when you do?
I'll say for me that at my internship, this has kind of been a topic that me and my field supervisor have been talking about, because a lot of the school that we recently partnered with, there's a lot of people facing a lot of financial issues due to property taxes increasing, and there's a lot of parents there that have like 3 jobs, but they're still not able to make ends meet. So we're kind of in the process of trying to develop some form of, I don't know what yet, but just thinking about how can we help people, because it's not necessarily always about finances, but what else can we place in their hands that they'll be able to utilize, whether we're talking with the staff members at the school, like maybe resume building, or connecting them with other resources to further their education and things like that, things that we are currently able to give them.
And you said at the micro level, like counseling, therapy. Oh, yeah. I feel like attacking this at the macro level is the thing that we really have to do, because like Dr. Herring said again, if you were, Charlotte, North Carolina is rated 50th
as far as like upward mobility. So if you were born in poverty, more than likely you're gonna die in poverty. And my personal story is like I'm a Charlottean through and through. Like I've been here my whole entire life, was raised here. I love Charlotte. I seen it develop, and I pretty much stayed on every side of Charlotte. But seeing a lot of my friends and family members have to move out to the outskirts, like Gastonia or Concord or Rock Hill, places like that, where they are not able to enjoy the economic boom that Charlotte has been able to obtain. And one thing that helped Charlotte, North Carolina, is the I forgot what it's called. It's called CIAA. Y'all remember the CIAA?
Mm-hmm.
So the CIAA really improved Charlotte. That's where they got a lot of their money from in these last probably like 10 years, where they were able to really, invest in the infrastructure. And the CIAA had to move to Baltimore because they asked the city of Charlotte to donate more money to their college, but they didn't want to do it, even though they took advantage of the economic income that was coming in for that week. So we're still in the South, and there's still a lot of changes that needs to be made. And I think it's going to be at the macro level to give our people resources in order for them to enjoy where they are.
For me, I would like to see some preventative measures put in place. Again, just me being from the Bay Area, I've lived through the impacts of gentrification. And it is bad in Charlotte, but you can tell it's gonna get much worse because it's not slowing down. Every day you see new apartment complexes and new breweries and businesses and whatnot. So I think with my experience of working in housing in the Bay Area and seeing how far it can go and what it can look like with homelessness in the thousands, right? Like Charlotte has a chance right now, today, to put some things in place to mitigate what's happening.
And definitely this is where the political realm comes in for me, because we say this, but are we out there? Are we going to the city council meetings? Are you going to your neighborhood association meetings? Are you voting? So you say this, but you have to be out there. So my internship was with Charlotte Family Housing. So these are working homeless individuals. So they are a part of our project. They have been gentrified. And so when you speak to them, it's like, okay, so for me, let's do a next step. As far as teaching them different avenues, learning different trades, because evidently, regardless to what they already are working, but it's not sustainable. So we have to look at, to me, that's what I'm looking at it at that level, finding ways to help them move up a notch to where I had to go back to school. So find ways where we can find people that's going to, okay, like welders, plumbers. We need these people for technical, period. So everybody's not college level, but as a social worker, you meet the person where they at. And so when you're meeting them where they at, you go ahead and say, okay, well, what do you want to do? And so that's why we're here. So implant, I didn't think I was going to be on this level, really, Dr. Gray. I just thought I'm going to slide in and do it. But I see the higher picture, the bigger picture. Dr. Dunnick, Dr. Herring, Dr. Luciano. Don't confine yourself to this small compartment. What you going to do? How you going to give JCSU a stamp that this is where I came from, and this is where I'm going to spread out so to bring more people inside JCSU. Yeah.
And also, like Deja, like my passion is Black maternal health. But after doing my community assessment, I did on Greer Heights for anyone that's familiar, and learning about that history. Social workers are jack of all trades. So I have thought about how can I interact with this community, and I researched the Greer Heights Center as well as like Crossroads, and they're an organization that's helping the long-standing residents not be displaced. And so I've been considering how can I interact with this organization on the side as I am attacking like my passions, just because again, we can't just stay focused on what we're interested in because we're doing a disservice as a social worker.
And I wanted to add also, For the Struggle is a community organization that's actually here on Beatty'sford Road. They do a lot of elder initiatives. So just recently, they just helped a whole bunch of elders just do their wheels to make sure that there is something economically in place for their loved ones after they're gone. And you would see a lot of the folks that are displaced is the reason because of that, not having anything written, because historically we don't know, and they like to keep us out of that box. So educating our people, our young folks, our elders, and telling them like what this could look like if we don't put this in place is very important.
So I actually have 2 questions. So my first question is, did y'all find any research gap that existed in understanding the relationship between gentrification and mental health, and how can it be addressed if you continue to study?
I think that maybe not between gentrification and mental health, but between the 3 components that we search for on a whole as community health, being able to find something that described all 3 of those together. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
And like, what can be put in place to address it?
I think some of the things that my classmates just mentioned, like being out in the community, and like Lauren said, even if it's not your passion, still being knowledgeable and being able to do something.
Can I give we can use Johnson C. Smith. I mean, this is a historical Black institution that's, educating us fine Black people up here and many to come. So I think that, with our professors, they all got their doctorates, they're very knowledgeable, they're very helpful, and, they put us through the test. Like, they really, like, I love this program because, like, they've given me a foundation to make a difference. So I know how to do research. I know how to do, so now I can take this information and really try to help my community. But I think we could use our professors and this social work program to make a difference in the community, because like this is the place with the most resources as of right now.
And to answer your first part of your question, as the literature review group, again, like there weren't a lot of studies that talked about gentrification and mental health as like on a larger scale. So I would say that's probably the only gap, is that it's not explored enough. But other than that, like it was always consistent with like the negative impact on the mental health.
So this is where y'all was like to do research, so it could open up a lot of doors as far as like mental health.
Absolutely.
And so the other one is, for my community assessment, I'm doing this community bill, and this community, like a lot in Charlotte, is very historical, and it has, it's very deep rooted. So I know in the beginning, I think someone touched on gentrification being also positive. So how can we take steps to ensure that the history of these communities remain without taking away the culture? Because once you put in these apartments, it takes away from a lot when we have buildings here that we can repurpose. So what are some strategies that we can set in place to address that? I can answer. I feel like there needs to be some type of alliance with the leaders. There are some great leaders in the Middleville community. Specifically, I think, I cannot remember the name of the organization, but they run like a, they're running like a preservation of the culture of Middleville and the community and the history behind it, and dispersing the education to children.
Is it the Council of Elders? Is that the one? Council of Elders?
Do you remember?
You talk about when we was at Cedar Grove, the historical.
I can't remember the name of the organization.
Council of Elders?
No,
it's not Council of Elders. But not just in Middleville, just in a lot of the communities. I can do Hidden Valley community. They have such strong leaders with a plethora of knowledge and resources for themselves. I feel like if there was some type of alliance between the leaders in the community to be able to, first and foremost, create a strong foundation and just disperse that information and resources to the populations that need it. So like I said, that 49 and younger population, there's a disconnect. So I feel like if we're able to promote some community cohesion in these communities to be able to combat gentrification, I feel like in my personal opinion, that would be a strong preventative measure to be able to just slow down the progress and be able to spread the culture that still is here. So just for me, just an alliance of leaders and start from there.
And education on like gentrification, because again, it is a complex concept. So if you're not as educated on it, you really don't know what it is, what to look for, how to combat it. So educating it, so having those coalitions or those leaders educating the community on what that is and how that could impact, because people don't know what it impacts. But also there was a study that I read that talked about community dialogue being a part of having a stronger community cohesion. So people are talking amongst each other, but of course, if you have that gentrification and there's a disconnect in the community, that's going to make it difficult. So education, coalitions are like the biggest two things that I think will help, especially if you're thinking about the baby board area.
Also, I think, can I just say one thing? Also, us being present for community planning meetings, just because in those meetings they discuss, you get this rich person be like, hey, I want to bring this here or whatever. If we not represented in that space, we have no say so on the new buildings and the new things that they're going to put in place. So if they're tearing down something historic to put up something else, and we wasn't there to have a vote, then.
And there are some positive things about gentrification. The positive thing is you can learn from those who do it. So, and I think that John C. Smith been a staple in this community for a long time, even before they even started to gentrify it. They had the ability with the resources to buy some of these properties, to buy some of these lands, to provide the community with affordable houses and things like that, that would have kept the money into the community instead of like now you have the newcomers coming in and buying up the property and raising the property value and displacing the residents. So I think like using because social work teaches us what are your resources? What resources do you have? John C. Smith is a major resource in this community, and in my opinion, I don't know how much money they make, but I'm just saying, I know how much my tuition is. I know how much I'm gonna have to pay back. You know what I'm saying? After I get this good old degree. So I'm gonna be calling y'all for the references. But I just think that using what we have, this is a powerful institution, and I believe that putting leaders in positions that are not just trying to get a paycheck, but really trying to make a difference. Not just trying to be the president of John C. Smith, but really trying to make sure John C. Smith continues to thrive and help the community around it. So I think that learning from those who gentrify us and playing the game that they play for our people. And I think that's one of the positive things that we could do.
One more thing I want to add is also you got to get out and vote. You have to get out and vote, not just for the president, but for your local council members, district council. All the people who make the zoning laws and decisions, because that zoning is so important. I don't want to go too deep into that, but that is a major part of gentrification. So if you're not going out and voting, it's really not much you can do on the macro meso level to stop it.
This is my last question, which I said maybe. So, I don't know much about the policies of gentrification. So as an example of something if someone has a home, can it be a grant that goes into the neighborhood and picks up the home that's already existing? Is that part of what that looks like, or does it look like it's completely coming in and reconstructing everything?
People come in, reconstructing everything.
The only time the grants I think are involved is when it's historical properties, right? When it's deemed historical, then it can't be touched. It'll maybe be restored to a certain quality.
That, and you have some nonprofit organizations that are being established and created to help folks stay in their homes. There are even, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of public-private collaborations that is trying to help some folks keep their homes. But just going out and writing a grant, that's probably not going to happen.
Thank you.
I have another question over here. I thought I saw it. No.
All right. Oh,
I would say law enforcement for me, because that's another gentrification. We have a lot of our African-American males there, and it's keeping us stagnated instead of households being broken up. So to alleviate that part right there, one-on-one, if you can say, for me, this person stole something, okay, let them clear you straight. If you pay attention, it's more Caucasian people out there doing work study. They keep our men in prison for crazy reasons. So law enforcement for me, get with the sheriff because he just spoke, and see what we can do with managing, getting people out, providing programs there so when they get out, they can't get unbelievable because they're felons or have something stagnated in their name, they can't get anything. So as long as we keep them stagnated, we're not going to grow as far as them, because they only can do but so much. They're keeping them stagnated even after prison. So they only can get certain professions. You can't, in this income today, you have to be able to grow, regardless to what. We all fail. I just feel that we still should continue to give someone the olive branch and continue to help. So I say law enforcement for me.
I would say the healthcare system for sure, because in many like low-income communities, there's multiple problems happening at once. And like with our research, the correlation with mental health and gentrification like that would need to be addressed as well as like just physical health issues. How can people keep up in this economy if they're not healthy? Especially in the Black community, we have such high numbers of just preventable diseases like heart disease and high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that. So I would like to see those two collaborate.
And I guess for me, it would be the planners and developers in the community. That way you have an insight into what's going on 10 and 15 years ahead of time before it happens. So it gives you an opportunity to prepare your community for what's coming. So working with the planners and community developers so that we know what's going on and when change is coming.
I would say working with teachers, because a lot of times when kids are going through hardship or seeing that their family is going through hardship, those behaviors are displayed in a way that may seem like, oh, that's a bad child, or that child isn't being raised properly, but educating teachers on the different ways that children may express like dysfunction in the home and things like that, facing poverty and things like that.
If I had to pick a profession, it would probably be faith-based organizations. There are millions of churches and communities, and sometimes I feel like not enough is being done, and I just feel like that is a ground place for faith-based leaders to reach a different number of populations and people within the community itself. So for me, it would probably be faith-based leaders and organizations.
And I'll go. I was going to say teachers as well. Before I wanted to be a social worker, I looked into working with children because I absolutely adore children. So like Sienna said, educating and being there to educate. Like for example, the same example that she used, when Black and brown children are acting out or just doing things in school, I feel like educators don't understand how to treat or meet that child where they at. They always get labeled, or they'll try to diagnose them with ADHD or just anything simply because they're acting out, and it really could just be the resources or how they're being developed at home.
And I'm sorry, was the question regarding gentrification or just in general?
Well, this project that you guys are working on, if you had a phase 2, so you get phase today and you're still working on it, phase 2, what would be that profession that you would collaborate with?
I would say community-based, because some of them are already doing it and some of them just lack resources and the manpower. But also I think by being community-based, you're not only combating like gentrification, but we're talking about also the other variables. So you're bringing communities together and strengthening that community cohesion. So I think community-based would be more so that suits me and my personality.
And I'll go next. I'm also going to say community-based. I work for an agency right now, we do CST, and we're working with partners with United Way, community support team. And we're partnering with United Way. United Way just got a grant. It ends in June, but they gave a lot of funds to find people, place people in housing for 2 years.
So now that we're close to the end, those people that we have in that 2-year project, we still have to find housing for. So it's like, it's a never-ending cycle. So now we're trying to figure out, are we going to get another grant? Is another grant coming? Is there one we can apply for so we can get moving assistance for these people that we're now going to move out, and where are we going to put them now? So I would continue doing that.
I would say whoever got the money. Whoever got the money, because we need resources. And that's the bottom line. We need resources. The upward mobility in Charlotte, North Carolina for African Americans is not good. So whoever is making the decision where the tax money is being spent at, and just like we had the analysis broke down, those people who made $80,000, they weren't mad. You know, they weren't mad at all, because they like, I can take advantage of these new amenities. But yeah, whoever got the money, I'm going after them. So you know, I can say like, you know, we need to pay for education. You know, we need to pay for job training. We need to pay for nonviolent criminal offenses to be wiped off records. And yeah, so you know, and we need affordable housing, of course. So like, whoever got the money, that's who I'm going after, because we need the resources at the bottom line.
So I would say anything that have to do with housing. Like when I look around this neighborhood, Biddleville, Cedarsville, you'll see a lot of empty lots or old churches that are decaying. Those spots can be used for affordable housing, but it seems like when that spot is cleared and it's ready to have that conversation, they want to put luxury. They want to do something to line the pockets more than the people that actually inhabit the community, and they are the ones who are left out. So anything that around like maybe flipping any of these old buildings and houses and making it affordable for those, even hotels. Off of Sugar Creek, you have a Roadway Inn. I think a property developer, he's now came in, he did the same thing over on the North Tryon side, where they flip like an old residence inn to an affordable housing. But what is affordable housing to you may not be for me. So we need to also create what that baseline is.
I would say collaborating with veteran organizations and veteran advocates, because gentrification affects everybody. And the veteran population is sort of like the middle child of the population. They're not noticed as much as the youngest child or the oldest child. And yes, that's what I would do to further that research.
And for me, there isn't one profession. It's more so the individual. So I would go to that individual, because that individual is a professional of their own lives and an expert of their own lives. So I would go to you. It's like, hey, do you notice what's happening? And we start the conversation like, well, you may know this person, you may know this person that have power. So the professional is you. Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Make some noise, y'all. What the?
Before we depart, y'all can sit down. Great job, everyone. Before we go upstairs, we probably won't have a lot of activity. We still got food upstairs. We got the posters upstairs. That'll be an opportunity for if anybody want to look at the posters and ask any additional questions, they could. These Q&As were much more extensive than I think we imagined, right? Which is a good thing. But before we go upstairs, Dr. Gray wanted to offer some congratulations.
Yes, let me say congratulations. You guys did a wonderful job. So I wanted to share one of my favorite quotes. Malcolm X said, "Education is a passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for today." After today's presentation, you all are prepared. There is no doubt in my mind you are ready to go out there and tackle the challenges that our society faces. And as we all know, social workers are going to be leading the charge to confront those challenges. So congratulations on all of your hard work. We are also very proud of you. And
knock out this last week, get those finals done, and we'll see you at graduation.
Before we cut loose, I want to acknowledge a couple of people in the audience. First of all, Dr. Luciano, thank you for all your work with this. I do want to acknowledge Dr. Duncan. Professor White, who has taught me. Can't wait till you finish that process. It's about to be real good. Lord have mercy.
Yes, don't forget.
Professor Kidd. Not even funny, so you're glowing. So thank you for supporting. And then Dr. Lindsay, you always come late. And then again to the family and friends who came out to support on this. Again, they couldn't have done it without you all. We thank you for lending them to us. Y'all almost done. All right, thank you so much. Picture with us. You want to get a picture? Weightlifting.